What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, and I just got back from the gym, just finished having a quick dinner, and I was scrolling on Twitter, and I saw the New York Giants are officially bringing in wide receiver Gabe Davis for a free agent visit. Now, this is a player that we meant to talk about on the channel last week, but as you all know, I was traveling. I was in London, England, having a really fun time, and so I didn't get around to making that video. But here I am, and now that they have actually went ahead and officially confirmed a visit with Gabe Davis, I figured I'd jump on real quick here. I know it's late at night. Just do a quick video and discuss Gabe Davis and the Giants potentially bringing him in as an upgrade at wide receiver. And how much of an upgrade would this be? I think that's open to discussion, and I think that's a little bit debatable. But I do think at the end of the day, this could be a really interesting high upside signing for the New York Giants. And the reason that I think that is because Gabe Davis is still only 26 years old. I know it's kind of crazy. He's already gone through 5 seasons of his career, but he was a young rookie when he came in through the draft at only 21. So he wasn't one of these 23-year-old rookies that's played 5 seasons and is now nearing his 30s. He's still in the prime of his career, and he was released from the Jaguars after 1 season. And yes, it was a disappointing season. However, it was really only the 1 season in his career that's been poor so far. If you look throughout his stats throughout his career, he's been ultra consistent. And I will dive into that in just a second here. But before I do, I want to say this. If you guys want to support the channel, make sure to click the thumbs up button. Just leave us a like. It's super quick, super easy, and free to do. And it really helps us grow the channel, especially if you want more breaking news updates just like this one. This is an immediate reaction to reading this news while scrolling Twitter. But I'm going to read the official report here from Paul Schwartz of the New York Post. This is what he said. The Giants are indeed meeting with wide receiver Gabe Davis, but it will not be a getting to know you visit. Davis will spend time at the team facility on Wednesday and reconnect with Giants general manager Joe Schoen and head coach Brian Daboll. All 3 were together during the 2020 and 2021 seasons with the Bills, and a more permanent reunion could be an upcoming development. That's the full report, at least the first 3 paragraphs of it, from Paul Schwartz of the New York Post. Now, I know all of you are pretty much familiar with Gabe Davis. Again, he's been mentioned on the channel before, and a lot of you have asked us about him and whether or not the Giants should sign him. He was kind of a touchdown phenom with the Buffalo Bills for a few years there. I mean, if you're looking back at his 2020 season, his rookie season, 599 yards and 7 touchdowns. The following year, 549 yards and 6 touchdowns. The 3rd year of his career, he actually saw a major uptick, unironically, or maybe ironically, however you view it. This was the first season of his career without Brian Daboll. He had a career high in targets at 93, 48 receptions, also a career high, and the career high with 836 yards, and then also put up 7 touchdowns and had a 98-yard reception touchdown that season as well. Very memorable play, I'm sure many of you do remember. And in 2023, his final season with the Buffalo Bills, 81 targets, a little bit of a step down, but still a high total, 45 receptions, 746 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Throughout his tenure with the Buffalo Bills, he averaged 42.7 yards per game. And throughout his tenure with Brian Daboll as his offensive coordinator, he averaged 35.9 yards per game and totaled 13 touchdowns across 2 seasons. So again, essentially, this is a player who earned a prominent starting role in the Buffalo Bills offense as a rookie because of his innate ability to get into the end zone, right? To score touchdowns. He's fast. He's 6'2". He's a big body receiver. He's got some speed and some big playmaking ability. And all of those things are really favorable for Brian Daboll and his offensive coaching staff. So my take on this is I would like the Giants to sign him. Now, pending price, we've had a couple of discussions on the channel recently about the Giants salary cap space, how tricky it is and how ugly it's kind of starting to look. The Giants currently have $1.1 million in cap space, according to Over the Cap. In effective cap space, though, which accounts for the team having to sign 51 total players plus their rookie draft class, the Giants actually have negative $9 million in salary cap space, effective salary cap space, that is. So they're going to need to cut some players. They're going to need to restructure some contracts, and they have a lot of time to get all that done. They don't have to get it done until July when training camp rolls around. But it is something that they need to be aware of. So essentially, it boils down to price tag, whether or not it will make sense for the Giants. If Gabe Davis is going to sign a veteran minimum deal, then absolutely the Giants should go ahead and sign him because that's not going to put a major strain on their salary cap space. But if he's looking for a few million, closer to 10, something like that per season, his last deal did pay him $13 million per year. If he's looking for multi-millions per season as a free agent this late in the offseason, he's probably going to be passed over by the New York Giants due to the fact that it would be very difficult for them to afford him. Now, the question then becomes, let's say that he signs for the veteran minimum and he wants to join the New York Giants. What's his role here in this offense? Where does he fit in? Who does he take snaps away from? What kind of doors does he potentially open? And how can Brian Daboll maximize him? So essentially, I think he steps onto this roster as WR4/5, right? Malik Nabers is WR1, Darius Slayton is WR2. Although there have been debates in the past, is Slayton or Gabe Davis a better player? I think that's, again, up to debate. I would go Darius Slayton. And then, of course, wide receiver 3 would be Wan'Dale Robinson. So competing at wide receiver 4 would then be Gabe Davis, Jalen Hyatt, a little Jordan Humphrey, who the Giants signed, and, some of those other back end on the roster guys that we don't talk a ton about because they're not all that impactful. But here's the thing. Gabe Davis as WR4 for the New York Giants is pretty exciting, right? Because this is a guy who was a legitimate starter just 2 years ago for the Buffalo Bills, a touchdown machine, as I said, 13 touchdowns in the 2 seasons that he played, of course, with Brian Daboll, a guy who just knows how to get in the end zone, who's really talented and has a big frame, a big body. This could be 2025's version of when the Giants signed Isaiah Hodgins in 2022, right? A guy who just needed a new opportunity, had familiarity with Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen. Daboll knew how to use him, and so he steps onto the scene and kind of provides a spark and makes a pretty big impact for the New York Giants. At least Isaiah Hodgins did in 2022 when the Giants made that playoff run. I mean, he was a pretty instrumental part of that playoff run. In fact, I would say had a big game in the playoff game that they won versus the Minnesota Vikings. So if this could be the Giants' version of Isaiah Hodgins in 2025, however, potentially a much better version of that, you got to be all over it. Again, pending price tag. But I do think that Gabe Davis, when you're looking at his age, his career production, and his potential to reassimilate with a coach he previously thrived under, and play with a quarterback who's got a skill set that matches his game. Again, keep in mind, Gabe Davis is primarily a deep receiving threat. He would be an upgrade over Jalen Hyatt in that regard. But Russell Wilson, Giants starting quarterback, we've talked about it a ton. He is a great deep ball passer. So what this boils down to, do you want to upgrade over Jalen Hyatt because you don't trust him? Or do you want to give Jalen Hyatt the opportunity to grow, develop, and thrive in that WR4 role? That's the big question. So if the New York Giants don't believe in Jalen Hyatt, and maybe they have questions about his development, maybe they think he's a potential trade candidate later in the offseason, go ahead and sign Gabe Davis. But if they're confident in Jalen Hyatt, say, okay, you know what, we traded up for him in the 3rd round a few years ago. His flaws, his weaknesses, yes, they've been apparent, but they haven't been his fault because of the poor quarterback play. If this is how they feel about Jalen Hyatt, maybe they do pass over Gabe Davis. But at the end of the day, this is a guy who at one point was viewed as a pretty top-notch wide receiver for the Buffalo Bills. He was their WR2. Whether or not he was a great WR2, I think is debatable, but he's definitely a solid WR3 talent, I would argue, at the NFL level. Again, very poor outing this past season in Jacksonville. Read off those stats. He started 9 games, played in 10. 42 targets for 20 receptions, 239 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So a very underwhelming year, but a tough and ugly year for the Jacksonville Jaguars in general, right? Trevor Lawrence was injured from the majority of the season. They had to fire everybody. The Jaguars sucked, to put it plainly. And unfortunately, I think Gabe Davis got wrapped up in the mix of them being a bad football team. And so unfortunately, he had a career regression, a major step backwards as a new member of this poor Jacksonville Jaguars team. But I still think the talent from his tenure in Buffalo is there. He's only 26 years old. Last season, yeah, he got injured. He only played 10 games, but it didn't look like he had lost the step. It didn't look like he was lost out there or was, suffering some sort of severe regression in terms of his physical ability. Again, it more so just felt like he was wrapped up in a crappy situation with a crappy football team. So I like the idea of signing Gabe Davis, a guy who could score some touchdowns, definitely adds good depth to the New York Giants, and honestly still has starting upside as a 26-year-old former 7 touchdowns per year player in this NFL. And again, I love that he has the familiarity with Brian Daboll and with Joe Schoen. We knew that they were probably going to bring him in for a visit. It's nice to get the confirmation from Paul Schwartz of the New York Post that he will be visiting on Wednesday. Giants in the facility. Of course, we all know OTA is going on, so on and so forth. But I do think this could be a really nice last-minute addition to the Giants offense. Keep in mind, wide receiver was a priority for them entering the offseason, but the market just didn't kind of fall into place the way they wanted it to. So they passed over all the wide receivers that they could have signed, just re-signed Darius Slayton. And then they didn't draft a wide receiver, which, fun fact, a shout out to NATO. I believe it was the one that commented this in the comment section. The Giants, this was the first time since 2020 that they hadn't drafted a wide receiver. Drafted one, at least one every single year since then, but that's the first time since 2020 that they didn't draft a receiver. So they really did nothing to upgrade the position, but bringing in Gabe Davis could be a pretty interesting depth piece and upgrade with starting upside, as I said, since he's only 26 years old. So I like this move. If the Giants make it, it's just a visit, so let's not get our hopes up or get ahead of ourselves. But I have pretty good feeling that, the familiarity, all that, the Giants are probably going to get this one done, but of course we'll see. And if they do make the sign and they do get it done, we will update you here, of course, as we always do on Fireside Giants. So what do you guys think about it? Should the Giants sign Gabe Davis? Do you like the fact that they're meeting with him? Do you have any thoughts? Do you think it's dumb? Do you think it's fantastic? Whatever it is, comment it down below. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Again, share your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening to Apple or Spotify, make sure to leave us a 5-star review and go ahead and follow us on all our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, I'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.